Hi, welcome to Coco's World, where we dive deep into knocking life the F out. I'm your host, Carly Stokes.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Coco's World. As you can tell, there's nobody else here, so of course, today is my moment. I know that everybody's been asking about me. Like, honestly, everybody's just like, we want to know more about this girl behind the scenes named Coco, and that is me, Carly. As we all know, Coco was a name that I was growing up, or I grew up with. Most people did not know that, but I have an aunt who is literally, I probably shouldn't say, but she is like one of my favorite aunts. And we nicknamed each other. She's AB for Aunt Bev. And then she was like, oh, you're Carly. Everyone calls you Carly or Car, KR. Um, and she was like, what about Coco? And I said, oh my gosh. So this name has been stuck with me since I was a kid. But anyways, this is where Coco's World originated from. And since all you nosy suckers out there that always want to know about moi, I figured I'd give you an episode all about me. So you guys did provide a list of questions, and I'm going to run down through them a couple months ago, and we're just going to go ahead and get started. So most people ask, what was the significance, or where did Coco's World, the podcast, originate? And honestly, I was driving down the road, and I'm not really into astrology. I am a person that I would consider myself very spiritual. I don't associate with any religion. That's a story for another day. But I was just like, Carly, you should start a book. I don't have time to sit down and write a book, and I don't believe in ghostwriters. So I was like, well, what is something that's the closest to a book that I could possibly get to in this time frame? And literally a podcast. Well, that same day, my horoscope popped up on my phone, which I felt like was very ironic because, once again, I'm not into astrology and I don't have anything like that on my phone. But the horoscope popped up and was like, Aquarius, something, something rising. You are in a space of starting a podcast. And I was like, oh, this is the universe telling me that this is meant to be. So I started jotting some things down. We were actually going to name the podcast Carnivals. Let me get my words together. Because my family and I, we always hash out our issues in our vehicles versus being in the house, just because we like to keep our home very sacred, and the energy, sometimes the energy gets shifted, but for the most part, we try to keep it in our house, in our cars. And we were like, Carly, you should start a podcast called Car Carnivals. That did not sound good, and it did not really set well with me. And then Coco's World, from, my nickname, and then everything just being, instead of one niche, having a variety of things, because as we go along with this podcast, my goal is to show you guys as much of my authentic self as I possibly can. The significance with the release date, 4/4/24, I just believe that 444 are angel numbers, number one. Number two, it originated with me because my family and I, we, live by this saying, forever, for life, for always. And we're kind of like, not the Holy Trinity, because, we're not going to replace spiritual, but we are, each other's safe space. And Khalees, Shelby, and myself have just been like a dynamic duo, or a little trio of just us, and we've overcome so much. So I just felt like something that signified my family while also, balanced me from a spirituality standpoint. The 444 just made the most sense. So that's where the dates were originated. More about myself. I am from Greenville, South Carolina. It's a very small town in South Carolina. A lot of people are moving here. But if you don't already move here, please stay wherever you're at, because Greenville is not evolving as fast as the folks that's moving here. So y'all need to stay outside of the city limits. My thoughts on growing up in the South. That's a really tricky question. I grew up in the South, but originally my family is from Easley, South Carolina, so it's a lot smaller than Greenville. I was really blinded, I would say, from the realities of this world. I really didn't start learning about, discrimination and gentrification until college, truth be told. I grew up with predominantly, I would consider myself white friends. And I would have like one or two black friends or other ethnicities. But my predominant group of people were predominantly white. I went to a predominantly white school, very preppy, very what you would consider Lily Pulitzer wearing, simply Southern belles type of people. I grew up in a middle class family for until I was like 5 when my parents divorced. I did come from a divorce background. And then my dad, hit some hardship. My parents got divorced, and that, middle class family turned into a single family household for my father and then also my mother. So I do have a father that's in my life. He's been in my life my whole entire life. My mother was very well in my life. I grew up doing pageants. And truth be told, when I started learning more about the issues of the South was whenever I went to college. And I believe everybody, everyone says like, oh, that woke agenda. Well, we're not going to talk about the woke agenda, but I will say that the more that you educate yourself, you also can learn how messed up our system is. And I honestly can agree with people whenever they say like the South is probably the worst part of a geographic location. The South marker on the map of the United States is probably the worst of the worst. So growing up, I will say that like my family, when I was with my family, we are a really tight tribe. But yeah, there's parts of like Pickens County, you would not find me, after dark, even though I blend in with a lot of the people there. And Greenville, I'm thankful that it has evolved as much as it has now, but there's still a lot of backwoods stupidity, racist, bigotry, that goes on day in, day out. So that's my thoughts on the South. I definitely believe, and I'm grateful that my father had a job where he traveled a ton because he raised me believing in a higher power, spirituality. He raised me that, you should judge people based off of how they judge you, not, what the Bible says, which is like do to others how you want them to do to you. No, like treat people how they treat you. And he definitely taught me core values of the Bible, but we just view ourselves as more of a spiritual base than what people would consider Bible thumpers. Yeah. Next question. Growing up in a time of with divorced parents, how was that? It was rough. I will say that early 2000s, divorce was still like the orange is the new black, like nobody really realized unless you've come from that type of background. I'm so grateful that now like the kids in today's world, they accept each other. I remember when I went to the new school in Greer, South Carolina, and people were like, so, where's your mom and your dad? And I'm like, at the time, they couldn't even like really be in the same room with one another. And I already know that my parents are going to watch this. So you guys, you're going to get to see my reflection of your behavior. But yeah, award ceremonies, they sat on 2 separate sides of the room. I really never owned a picture, or to this day into my wedding, actually. I have not had pictures of both of them in the same picture. And friends never understood that because they came from, heterosexual families. Even if the mama hated the daddy, they were going to be together until the children turned 18. And I don't know. I kind of feel like it's like a whole little niche within yourself. So middle school, I started branching out and I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to start telling people as soon as I meet you, like my parents are divorced, because people wouldn't be your friend, or they would be like, oh, we can be friends at school, but behind, whenever we go home and hang out outside of school, we can't hang out. So I started doing that and started realizing that there were more single mom households, and started gaining friends from that. But I'll just say that it was very troublesome, and I often have to reflect on my childhood because I know how hard it was growing up with the title, oh, she's the divorced kid's family. I think is even worse when people be like, oh, the parent isn't married. And I would always have to feel like I had to argue for my point of being like, yeah, my parents were married. They just got divorced before I started school or whatever. So that was difficult. What was my childhood experience like? I feel like I had a really good childhood. I was a daddy's girl. Um, I was very stuck under my dad. And then I spent so every summer, my parents had joint custody, and I would go to my dad's house in the summer and every other weekend and every holiday. And I absolutely loved it because that meant that I got to spend time with my grandmother. And my grandmother will be 85 in September, and literally she is honestly my hero. I mean, if you know me, then you know Carolyn Stokes is like my rock. I even had a custom bag like designed that says grandma's house, and I would literally pack it just to go to her house. But my childhood, I would say that my childhood would have been different if I did not have a grandmother. Like, my grandmother was my childhood. She taught me how to garden. I would, do clean like collard greens and pick peas and all the things that I don't even think that actually my significant other knows that I can do, because she genuinely believes that I'm such this mega city girl. But I mean, my grandmother lived in the country, and she has a house that's a brick house on literal red clay dirt. She did not have any grass that grew. And my cousins, I was one girl out of four girl cousins, and it's 21 grandkids, and there's 5 girls. But in my age group, there was 4 of us because my sister was part of the older generation. And we would literally play all summer, ride bikes. I would kind of help keep the house clean with my grandmother, and cook in the kitchen and do all the things that she would teach me how to do. But I would say, for the most part, other than, besides the negativity of my parents getting divorced, it was a good childhood. I can't complain. I went through my little spell of high school and trying to find myself, but as a young kid, figuring out this world, I was really hurt about my parents being divorced. But I will say that for the most part, my grandmother made that negative and that dark time extremely light. So I'm beyond grateful and will forever be grateful for my grandmother for that. Did I grow up with a large family? So I think I just answered that a little bit, but there's 21 grandkids on my dad's side. Now I think we counted, there's like 28 great grands, and my grandmother had 7 children. So yes, I came from a very, very big family. My immediate family is just myself and my sister. I have a sister that's 10 years older than me. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia when she was 19 and I was 9. She had just had my niece, who everyone knows is my daughter, Khalees. We are all 10 years apart. And no, back that up. She was 20 because she was 19 when she had Khalees. She was 20. And yeah, we were not really close, I'll be honest. Growing up, she was 10 years older than me. So like literally by the time she was hitting teenage years, I was just starting to actually know who everybody was. So, she would play with me. We had a semi good relationship, but I think we battled a lot. And one of the worst memories, I feel, that my mama probably realized that she had a demon as a child, which I'm talking about me. My sister did something, and because I would bite, like I was a biter, and I literally bit the shit out of her. And then, my sister scratched me or something, and then I put bleach in the iron and ruined her clothes. So, we did not have the best relationship. It was, we respected one another, and also my sister, people knew not to fuck with my sister because even as a young kid, I would fight for her. And I was the only one that could be mean to her. My mom kicked her out one time. And yeah, because my sister was pretty rough. But that's a story for another day as well. But my mom kicked her out, and I felt really bad because I was like, no matter how hard things are, she's your daughter. And I think I was like 8. This was before Khalees was born. So I had to be really young, like 7 or 8 years old. And my mom came home, and I didn't know she was coming home, but I had told my sister, I was like, I will open the window for you and just sneak through the window. And when we're at work and school, like, you can come in and sleep and then just be gone before 5:30 because that's the time that we would come home. And my mom caught her in the house with her boyfriend at the time, and the boyfriend went to jail for it. My mom charged him for trespassing and breaking and entering. And then eventually I admitted that, like, I had unlocked the door, and she was like, why did you do that? And I said, I just feel like he's wrong because you kicked her out and she needs a place to live. So my sister and I, we just such, I guess, sister rivalries. I don't really know. We just 10 years apart, love-hate relationship, but I love her a lot. And yes, unfortunately, she's mentally ill. So now that her mental illness has kind of became worse over the years, we don't talk as much, but I will say that I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for her. Because I feel like my mom was able to be a certain level of a mother to my sister, but from my mom's mistakes or whatever through raising my sister, my mom also was able to reflect and improve through myself. And then through that, I've been able to kind of be a backbone or my sister's keeper for her daughter. So it's been a weird transition, but pretty, I would say, good. If you could have a superpower, but it had to be a kind of useless, what would it be? Useless. I don't know what this person was talking about, but if I had a superpower, to be honest, I would love the superpower of knowing people's thoughts. Because I always people watch, and I just be wondering, like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, what is going through your mind? First of all, when people be like, oh, I have resting bitch face, what is going through your mind for you to constantly have RBF? Because I love life way too much for me not to smile at least some part of the day. And people just be walking around just so fucking miserable. So I would love to just read people's minds so that I can understand. But also, I think I have a question down here about mental health on a serious note. And it was like, what advice would you give to someone suffering in silence? I'm going to come back to that question, but I feel if you knew what people was thinking, you could also help prevent them from like harming themselves or just being a friend, because this world is so cruel. So like just knowing, what they're thinking. I would love to have that superpower. What's the funniest thing that ever happened to you during vacation? Oh man. Okay, so I've traveled a lot. But I will say my most memorable moment. This vacation was a vacation from hell. It was my dad's side of the family's last time we've ever went to the beach together. Like I said, it was vacation from hell. We all went to the beach, and my cousin Alex and I are like 6 years apart. And so we always give each other hell. We always prank each other, whatever. So we're at McDonald's heading to the beach, and literally, I think we're at somewhere near the beach, and we was at McDonald's, and these cute girls like drove by and they were hollering at him. And I always do shit to like cop block. So he's getting out of the car trying to like be cute. He puts his grill in. Once again, this is years ago. This is like when the Nelly song Grill came out. And he's like, oh, what's up? What's up? And so I was like, stop talking to them or I'm going to embarrass you. And he was like, I swear on everything, if you do this, like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I literally pulled his pants completely down. Like, y'all, like, pulled his pants down. And he was so fucking pissed off. And the girls, like, literally started laughing at him. And they were grabbing their phones. And I told him, I was like, I told you I was, if you did this, I was going to do it. And so we went inside, and that whole vacation, like, we were pranking each other up and down. Like, we would do borderline inappropriate things. Like, I don't know why I chose his pants, but I did. And he got really embarrassed. But like the whole vacation, it was just a bunch of laughing between the two of us because we were pranking each other, even though the adults were so fucking mad. Like, honestly, it was a horrible trip, but we made the best out of it. And I would honestly say that was probably the best and most memorable vacation that I've been on in a very long time. So anywhere Alex is always a good time. If you had the power to change one event in your life, what would it be? That one's pretty deep. If I had the power to change one event in my life, what would it be? It probably would be the night that I got jumped. Yeah. Yeah. I was 14 years old, and I know you're probably thinking like she's psycho, smiling, and she's talking about getting jumped. But therapy, number one. Number two, it was a night from hell, and I'm not even going to go into the details just because, this will be public, and I want to respect all people that was a part of that night. But I would love to change that. I would love to change the trajectory. I should have just trusted my instincts and called my mom. But sometimes loyalty will not allow you to do certain things because you've given a person your word. But I will say through the years, I've learned, like, what is more important, your word or your life? And honestly, I probably would not be here today if I would have chosen my life because of how bad things were that night. But from a positive standpoint, I have now been able to share with my daughter of things to protect herself from, sexual assault, from, getting jumped. Like, there was just so many things that happened that evening that that's probably one of the only things I would go back and say I wanted to change. But I do not live life with regrets, and it is a part of my story, and that's just the end of it, and that's how far I'm going to go with it. What is the most interesting place you've ever visited or want to visit? Most interesting place, I would say, I really like Dominican Republic, but I feel like there's so much more out there than DR. So I'm not going to say that that's the most interesting. But where I would love to visit, I would love to go to Jerusalem. I would love to go to Europe. And I don't know why, but I just would love to go to Egypt and ride a camel. I know that camels are here, but that's not the same. I need the pyramids and everything so that, I don't know, I can just be one with the sand. So yes, I would love that. What was your craziest rumor you've heard about yourself? Oh my goodness, let's clear the air now. I've never had a fucking abortion. You got it? Everybody here clear? And the other rumor, my dad is not a fucking drug dealer, okay? He's never sold drugs in his life. He looks like Ernie, or, what is the guy from Family Matters? I can't even think of his name. I'm going to get ridiculed for it, but I can't even think of his name. Urkel. Yes, Steve Urkel. He's the nerdiest guy you would ever meet. My dad being a drug dealer is like me being a serial killer. Like, it's not. I mean, stupid. So I've never had an abortion, and my dad's not a drug dealer, so I'm not the plug's daughter, okay? So just so y'all know. What's one thing you could change about society if you could? I would automatically put out a rule. Like, I put this in my presidency campaign for TikTok. If I was president and people were judgmental, they would have to be persecuted. It literally drives me crazy that people put their business in shit that doesn't need any minding of. Like, it's none of your business, mind your business. And yeah, so I just feel like society should love more. We should encourage people. We should empower people. We should want people to be authentic. Like, the amount of judgmentalness is just not it for me. So if I could just change that, I would. The other thing I would change, I know I only had one, but this is my show, so I'm going to do two. The other thing I would change would be the nobody could have body dysmorphia. Like, it really breaks my heart, honestly. How many girls especially go through body dysmorphia? Like, I don't know, and maybe they're, please provide some feedback, but maybe men have dysmorphia over their, dicks. I don't really know. That is possible. And if it is, then I 110% hate that for you. But I just feel that, men are like, oh, I got what I got. I'm going to work with what I got. I mean, it is just what it is. And girls, like, we change so much. Like, we have this fear of going to the gym. We have this fear of dieting. Baby, if you want a big back, be blessed and have that big back. If you want a thin waist, or if you don't want a thin waist, like, do what makes you happy. But I personally feel that it's just so heartbreaking that so many girls go under surgery, or they have really dark thoughts about themselves because the things that their mind goes through from having dysmorphia. So that's something that I would change about society, is like body positivity. Empower what you have, be grateful for what you have, and if you want to change it, let's work together to improve what you have. But you should never feel less than or not good enough or inadequate because of what God blessed you with. So, how do you define happiness, and have you found it? I define happiness when you can wake up every single day bright-eyed and bushy-tails and sing your heart out and not give a damn about anything. I don't think that happiness is the amount of money that's in your bank, or how many followers or how many likes you have. I genuinely believe, and let me take this back, happiness can be taken away from you, but joy, and that should have been the question, but I get whoever asked me that question, I get it. Joy and pure joy, I genuinely would define it as no one can take it away, and you wake up every single day and it's just, you feel like you're literally floating on a cloud. And that's genuinely how I be feeling. Like, I don't know. We have a camera in our house, and I wish that I could just go live every morning, because my family thinks I'm a quack, because I literally knock on my daughter's door and I'm like, come and knock on my door. And I'm literally singing every morning, because I feel like every day that you have life, like, you should be grateful for that, and that should automatically bring you joy. And when depression and things seek in, it's because of the fact that you're allowing yourself to think thoughts about things that are out of your control. That's all that anxiety is like things that's out of your control. The moment that you start to enclose those thoughts and enclose yourself to focus in on only what you can control and what is in your or like your real ability to reach, the better life you're going to have, and the happier and the more joyful you're going to be able to be. So yeah, and also I think joy comes from not giving a fuck. I mean, honestly, like, people real life are going to talk about you if you're doing good or if you're doing bad. So you might as well just not give a fuck whether you're doing good or doing bad, and just let people talk, okay? So that's the answer to that question. What's the toughest decision you've ever made? Toughest decision I've ever made would be saying yes to becoming a parent. I was 21 years old. I had no job, y'all. I had just graduated college. Actually, the weekend before I got that call, I was completely trashed. Okay? Yes, I went out every weekend and had a grand time every weekend. And I get this call saying, you have 15 minutes to come say yes. Instead of saying yes to the dress, say yes to the child. And I said, okay, I'll be there. And it was really hard. It was very hard. My wife at the time was my girlfriend. We had just got engaged because I just graduated college. Um, and literally, I had no bed. Like, well, I had a bed. Hold on. I was not sleeping on the floor. I had a bed, but I did not have a bed for Khalees. So I was like, okay, she's going to have my bed. Um, I was I got a blow up mattress. I was like, we got to hide the alcohol out of the house because obviously they came in and inspected. Um, and I was in the middle of actively interviewing for jobs. Like, I had no job. I had a plan. My plan was to get a job where I was traveling a lot. Obviously, I just signed papers saying I'll be somebody's child. I mean, mama, I can't travel. So I was like, well, let's recalculate this. But the hardest decision and the hardest, thing that I've ever done turned into one of the biggest blessings that I've ever accomplished. Like, being a mom, and having the responsibility of like somebody else's life in your hands, I definitely understand it, because now people be like, oh my gosh, now that I'm a mom to this itty bitty infant. I was a mom to a itty bitty 11-year-old, and I absolutely loved it. And it was very hard. We had a lot of hard times. Khalees had a lot of trauma that she was coming through and overcoming, but reality of it, hindsight 2020, 8 years later, we made it. And I'm beyond proud of her, but most importantly, I'm beyond proud of me, because I did not see us surviving. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna, do good. I remember one time I had cooked and it was late because I was in grad school. I was working full time. She was also in school, of course. And Shelby was in chiropractic school. And literally, I cooked and I didn't have like vegetables. I think I had made like rice and chicken, and I was like, shit, like there's nothing on the plate of vegetables. And literally I just cried. Like, I didn't even eat dinner that night. And Khalees looked at me and she was like, it's more than I'm used to having. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm doing a great job. Like, we're gonna survive. So yes, most rewarding, but the toughest decision I've made this far. And do I want to have children? I don't know. That's to be determined. But I'm also completely, that feeling of motherhood is completely fulfilled with being Khalees's mom. Have you ever had a life-changing revelation? Yes, actually. I actually believe I've seen the light, and I'm not joking. I was in a really bad accident when I was 18, almost life-altering accident. And I was hospitalized for 14 days. I went head on into a tree. I was not driving, and literally broke my arm and lacerated my liver. And yeah, I will say that I used to ask God all the time, like, why did he save me? Because so many people never survive car accidents like that. But now I'm grateful that, like, I didn't go to heaven at that time. So I will say that was like my revelation. And also it made me realize that even if I don't, align with a religion, there is definitely a higher power, because I definitely seen it. And it does look kind of like what people say, like the pearly gates. It was very royal, and I'm all for royalty. So, Queen Carly, how is your perspective on the world changing over the years? I love it. I mean, my perspective is, give love and be loved. Like, I love love. I love people being able to be their authentic selves. It hurts me whenever I see people not be able to be themselves. So now that we live in a world where even the bigots feel proud to, I'm happy for you. I mean, I really am. Like, I'm so happy that you feel so proud about it. And then also, the gabies and thabies, like, I'm so happy for y'all. Like, I'm one of them. But I'm just so happy that, like, You can be who you want to be, love who you want to love. If you don't want to love nobody, I love that. Like, I have a friend that married himself, and I love that for him. Like, if you're watching, yes, he went down the altar and married himself, had a mirror and everything, and literally married himself. And I just couldn't be me, but I love that for him. So yes, the world in today's times, I'm for it. How do you balance personal growth with a committed relationship? That's a great question. Personal growth with a committed relationship. So I'm a person that is extremely organized. I follow life with a schedule because I just feel like you need to follow life with a purpose. And if you don't have a purpose, then what are you doing? We need to find you a purpose. So when I evaluate my relationship in my life, I know that I have life goals just like I have relationship goals, and I have those type of goals with every relationship that I have. But let's talk about Shelby and I. There's a time and place for everything. So I really try to limit. I own a couple businesses. I do work, W-2, and then I have my 1099s. And I purposefully do not work at least one day a week. And that day right now is Sundays, just because realistically my W-2 is Monday through Friday, Dance to Fit Wednesday and Saturdays, and then Elite Empire is really every day. But I really try to stick with that Sunday time being for my family. But also Shelby and I schedule date night at least once a month. And then every night before we go to bed, we we literally are off our phones and we catch up with one another in our room and we talk for hours. That's probably going to change when Khalees leaves, but because she's about to go to college. But like, that's our time to kind of catch up with each other about the day and then our date night. So that's how I prioritize her. For myself, I make sure that I meditate every morning before I get up. It's just 10 minutes. So literally I turn on the meditation music and that's my time. I also go to the gym at least 5 days a week, realistically 4, but I try to push for the 5 days. And that is my time. Like, Shelby and I used to work out together, and genuinely it was just too much. I mean, she comes from a very competitive basketball background. I'm competitive, but not in that nature. I like slow and steady working out. She is slow, but slow on a whole different level, like an hour and a half type of slow. And I'm like, I am slow and steady, but I want to be in and out in 60 minutes. So but also it's time for me, and I can listen to my own music. I don't have to have a conversation with no one, and I can genuinely be in tune with myself. And then also I'm learning just to allow space for myself. So also the once a month date nights, I've also tried to incorporate once a month mental health days for me. And it's not like mental health, like, oh my gosh, I'm in a crisis, but it's proactive for me to do things that's going to fill my cup. Because guys, I want y'all to realize that the more that you fill your cup is the more that you can also pour into your children, your spouse, your job, whatever it is that you're pouring energy to. You have to come from a full cup as well. So that is kind of the perspective that I have, is like, I fill my cup and then I'm able to fill, my relationship with Shelby's cup. And also when Shelby needs to fill her cup, I don't expect her to show up as I'm showing up in the relationship either, because I want us to be 100% within ourselves. And that kind of goes with also the saying, like, you can't love other people without loving yourself first. But that wasn't part of the question, so I'll stick to it. What do you think is the biggest challenge couples face today? To be honest, I don't know, because shit's hard out here. I think that would come from a poll. I would have to ask what people's thoughts are. But I personally feel that communication is very hard in today's society because we are very instant. We're very like texting, there's not a lot of human interaction anymore. So, when you're in a relationship with someone, I don't know, like, you have work, you have your friendships, you have so many different dynamics that I just think communication is very hard, for people to slow down and be able to get their thoughts together. Also, I personally feel that people lack emotional intelligence. Um, I'm grateful because I have a mentor and life coach that I work with monthly that kind of challenges me on my emotional intelligence. But a lot of people do not have that. And I feel that if you cannot come, or if you cannot be mature enough or regulated enough to come to your partner and say, like, I'm emotionally stimulated, I cannot have this conversation, even if you know that it's very important. And if you don't have a partner that can receive that, it makes things 10 times harder. So I think that's like the biggest challenge that I see couples face. How has your past relationship shaped your current view on love? Ooh, past relationship. I'm wondering who asked me that question. But anyways, we're not even going to digress on that. My past relationships, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not saying that. No, past relationships. I mean, I just think that they didn't work out. And it turned out for the better good because they snoozed and they lost. I mean, big time. And, the Carlisha that people met I met Shelby when I was 19, 20. So if you knew me from 17, 18, 19, and you slept on a girl, even if you slept with the girl, it didn't work out, baby. And I don't think it made my view on love. I don't think it tarnished it in any way, because I don't think I would have given Shelby a chance. But when I said what I said, which was I'm over men, I meant that. And I take very high pride in it because I don't know. Guys just feel like they have just so much time for, girls to, or for themselves to figure things out with girls. And then whenever they see, like, oh, pew, I'm gone, it's like, oh, damn, like, she was really about it. And I'm a woman of my word. So I don't think my mother also believed me when I called her and I said, I'm no longer dating guys. I'm over it because my last boyfriend cheated on me. And she was like, you're just hurt right now. Like, give him some space. It's over with. Now, do I identify as myself as a straight on lesbian? Absolutely not. I still find men attractive. I talk to Shelby about guys being attractive all the time. We both share how we think guys are attractive. But before marrying Shelby, I never visioned myself marrying a man, to be honest. I also never visioned myself having children with men. I feel like, if you want my personal opinion, they're lazy. They just like to be catered to. And yeah, and that's just an ick of mine. So, I'm just over my past relationships, and we're just going to leave it at that. But thank you for the question, though. What's a non-negotiable for you in a relationship? Non-negotiable for me is how you speak to me. I hold myself to a very high standard to speak to most of everybody with a lot of dignity and respect. And I just personally feel that I will not with yeah, it's not even a negotiable. Because I personally feel that we all can get really heated and in the moment, but the moment you call me out of my name, the moment that you feel like you can curse at me, the moment that you feel, because I just feel that that's the entrance way to seeing how far is too far. And then before you know it, you're beating my ass. And then I'm going to have somebody come out here and have to, hurt you. So it's just best that we start that at the beginning of knowing, like, hey, I hold myself to a very high standard. And you're not going to talk to me any kind of way, because I know verbal abuse turns into emotional abuse, and emotional abuse eventually turns to physical abuse. And then I'm just dirt, because literally I'm going to be nothing because I'm going to allow you to run over me. So no, that's a non-negotiable. Okay. How do you prioritize your mental health daily? Well, I just shared it a little bit, but I go to the gym, I meditate, I do yoga at least once a week. I fill my cup with energies that energize me. So I love dancing. I grew up dancing. I was a dancer from the time I was 3. I did competitive dancing starting at the age of 8. I've been to world nationals. Actually, I had a scholarship for Juilliard before getting in my car accident, and then I could not audition because I was hospitalized. So dance is something that is my identity. It is part of my journey. It's part of who I am. So, and I think I'm really good at it. Nobody else can tell me other so. Yeah, that's something that fills my cup and helps me mentally. But also, I'm very careful with who I share my energy with, and I value intellectual conversations. I value personable relationships, and I value authenticity from people, even if it hurts me. I like to know where people stand. And with knowing that about myself, it has allowed me to know what I need from outside sources, such as friends, such as my partner, such as the boundaries I set with my family, and knowing when and where those energy sources need to be filled. So yeah. Also, another thing is, one thing that has helped my mental health tremendously is I have stopped trying so hard to be a people pleaser. I grew up feeling the need that, you need to love people and blah, blah, blah. No, we're not loving people. People will get what they deserve. And if you're mean to me, I'm going to be mean to you. If you're nice to me and love me, I'm going to be nice and love you. And I get that from my grandmother, so I'm grateful for that life lesson. Should you love yourself more than your partner? I think that answer is yes. I personally feel that you have to be secure within yourself for you to show up secure within your partner, because if you think about it, I have a lash in my eye. When you think about it, people that are insecure, they are lacking something within themselves. It usually has nothing to do with your partner doing something. Like, okay, if your partner go out here and cheat tomorrow, you chose to stay with them. Your partner didn't ask for you to stay with them. Your partner told you, hey, I cheated, or you found out that they cheated, and that was it. So, but knowing your self-worth, knowing how much you love yourself and how much you deserve happiness and a partner that shows up for you will allow you to walk away, no matter how famous, no matter how much money they got, no matter and I'm speaking from experience now. This has nothing to do with anybody. This is me speaking about myself. I walked away from something that I know could have made me instantaneously, Queen Elizabeth. And I said, absolutely not. I'm going to be single. I'm going to write out the things that I want for myself, because I love myself and I deserve more in life. And literally, I dated a little bit, and then I met Shelby. And on our first date, I asked her those questions just like I asked the other people that I dated. And it was a win-win. But I personally feel that if I would not have known to love myself and to be prideful of myself and to have confidence within myself and have high self-esteem, I wouldn't have been able to pour that into my relationship or pour that into a new relationship to show her how I wanted to be loved, because I already knew how to love myself. So I personally feel that, yes, you have to love yourself more than you love your partner. Doesn't mean that, I just think that. What advice would you give to someone suffering in silence? That question was the question we started off with earlier. I would first say, I'm sorry. Because no one should ever suffer alone and in silence. But the other thing I would say is, the sun's going to come up every day. But it's your choice of whether or not you allow you accept the sun. Like, it's our choice if we open the blinds. It's our choice if we continue to listen to the same music. I love Rod Wave. I love his music. But I know that if it's a certain time of month, I'm not listening to his music because I'm already going through hormonal things. So his music's just going to send me off the deep end. So it's our choice of what we surround ourselves. And even if you're suffering in silence, you don't have to suffer alone. People fail to realize when it comes to mental health that you don't have to tell people when you need them. Sometimes you can allow the universe to tell people that you need them. And what I mean by that is put yourself out there. Even if you never say a word, put yourself out there. I was once suffering in silence. During COVID, my mental health had turned into shit. I really did not know how to express my feelings because I had a daughter who depended on me, who had volleyball practice, and she worries about us. So I was not about to be like, I'm having really dark thoughts and I'm going through a depression right now. No, it wasn't her place to know that I was going through that. But every single day, slowly but surely, even if I didn't feel like it, I opened the blinds. There were days where I laid in bed. I mean, I think for 7 days, I'll be honest, Shelby came in the room and was like, Carly, you have to take a shower. Like, your ass stinks. I took a shower. I got right back in the bed. She opened the blinds. I told her to shut them. But then eventually I was like, oh, the blinds being open kind of helped me. And then I started watching comedy shows and TV. That's when Emily in Paris came out, and I really fell in love with that show on Netflix. And then I started going and sitting on the patio because I started gaining social anxiety. So anytime I would go out shopping or the things that used to make me happy, it would cause me chronic anxiety, like panic attacks. And so I started sitting on my patio, and then I would take the dogs for like one lap, and then that one lap turned into a mile. And I started realizing I was feeling better slowly but surely. And then I got to a place where I started journaling, and the journaling turned into words of affirmation. I am. So I would say, like, I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am going to beat this. And eventually those I ams of affirmations turned into statements to myself. And then I started growing from the I ams to gratitude, and I would write out like 10 things of gratitude that I was for the day and what I was grateful for, even though I didn't go nowhere, honey. I'm still in the four walls of my house. And then I started writing prayers, and those prayers were, even though I'm suffering in silence right now, and I don't know how to find my voice to tell someone that I genuinely need help, because hold on, pause here, because I grew up in a home where my sister was extremely mentally ill. My mom kept it very hidden because I think my mom was really embarrassed about it. And early 2000s, mental illness and mental health wasn't a thing. So I don't fault my mom for that, but that was just the fact. And I did not want to go to my mom and say, like, I'm having these issues, because I didn't want her to feel, once again, this is happening again. Like, I have another daughter now that's dealing with mental health or mental illness. So I genuinely was alone. I felt very alone. So I started writing prayers, and eventually I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to find a therapist. Found me a therapist. And then when my therapist and I talked about silence, she was like, Carly, we have to work together to help you find your voice. And I started using my voice with Shelby and Khalees, like telling them what I was going through. And then I shared my story of what I was going through with my dad. And then things just started trickling along where I started being able to express myself more. And I personally feel like anyone that's suffering in silence, that's the start. The start would be, I would advise you, open your blinds, because sunlight, grounding in the grass, becoming one with nature is part of the healing process. 2, if you can physically write, or even type on a computer, write your thoughts down, and provide yourself with words of affirmation, gratitude. And also, if you're not a person that prays, that's totally fine. I would ask yourself, love, what would you want me to know? And that love is your inner self trying to find you again so that you can break that silence. Okay, that's enough for that for today. What's your perspective on the stigma surrounding mental health? I don't think there should be a stigma. We all have some variety of mental illness. If you get anxious or if you get the nervous shits, you are part of mental health. I mean, we all have faced, if you've seen the movie Inside Out, it does a great, example of all of the emotions. And I just personally feel that mental illness is when one emotion is bigger than the other and you don't know how to tackle it or manage it. And that's when you need a, psychiatrist to help you, medicate you to get that to become more manageable. But I don't feel that there should ever be a stigma about it because we all are triggered. We all go through different life experiences and different walks of life that makes certain emotions or certain emotions hyper focused more than the other. So there shouldn't be a stigma. And if you feel like you should have a stigma about it, then F you. And because probably you are the number one person that needs therapy. So yeah, there shouldn't be no stigma. What role does therapy play in my mental health? It plays every role. I spend so much money in therapy and I'm so grateful for it. And I proudly say it. I will say when I had my anxiety and the panic attacks, the doctor wanted to put me on anxiety medicine. Nothing against anxiety medicine, but a person that worked in healthcare as myself, you become codependent of that medicine, and then eventually they're upping your dosage and you're not really solving the problem. I'm a person that likes to problem solve. So I went to a naturopathic physician because I also get extremely hyper focused when I feel like I'm not healthy internally, which affects me mentally. Also, my wife is a chiropractor. So I think that me just knowing certain things about, your body can heal itself and different things in that angle kind of makes me not want to take as many medicines. Not saying anything about the medical field. I'm just saying that's just kind of my perspective. So I will say that therapy, grounding, doing all of the work to, some people would call it balancing your chakras. I just mainly focus on meditating, deep breathing, doing relaxing exercises such as yoga, Pilates. Those are the things that really help me keep my mental well-being. And my therapist is literally my best friend. I meet with her once a week, and I will probably see a therapist for the rest of my life because it has just helped me tremendously. The other thing on top of therapy, I would say, is my life coach and my mentor. I have a mentor and I have a life coach. I meet both of them monthly, and it just allows me to bring work-related things to my mentor. My life coach, I go to her about life things and things that I'm struggling with, aka politics or whatever. Like, I can have a transparent conversation. And then my therapist, I can talk about things that I'm holding within my body, and she can help me articulate those things of how to express it to a person or how to overcome a certain barrier or how to set healthy boundaries. So it plays a huge role. Biggest life lesson you've learned in your 20s? Yes, as you all know, I turned 30 in 5 months. Your girl is excited. My 20s has been fun, but like I am really embracing, I don't know, like just this grown and sexy, mature vibe. I'm low key wanting to cut my hair, but even if I don't know if I'm going to cut my hair shorter or if I'm just going to like dye it. I don't know yet. Stay tuned for that. But the biggest life lesson you've learned in your 20s? I would say loving yourself. I know I don't want to get choked up about this, but like my teens were so trying to like find the right crowd to fit in, trying to be good enough, trying to explore yourself, trying to figure out who you are, you know. In my 20s, I'm so sad that like I started genuinely being okay with who I am, like all of me. I would say 2 years ago, 2027. Yeah. 26 is when I had the mental crisis. And I was working in a job that was not good and conducive for my mental health. I was around people that wasn't proud of me. And what I mean by proud of me, I mean like proud that I was in a same-sex relationship, and they were my friends. You know, I thought they were my friends. And but I just needed a click. I needed to feel adequate. I needed to have a pretty friend group. I needed a big friend group for pictures, you know. I live where I'm from. So I'm from Greenville. I moved back here after college. So I had this image that I wanted to uphold. Just like I worked in corporate America because it was something that my parents wanted me to uphold and accomplish because, oh, if you work in corporate America and make a great salary, that is, you know, every person's dream. No, it's not. Um, and the more that I started slowly living within my truth, and my truth is, I am a person that loves nature. I am a plant mom. I am a person that can be extremely loud at times, but also I'm a person that's very selective of who I share my energy with. I am extremely loyal, a little too loyal. I am a person that will dance with a homeless person on the side of the street because I don't give a damn that you're homeless. All I care about is that you're human. Um, I am a person that loves more than most people probably should love. I'm a person that believes in forgiveness and second chances. I'm a person that literally wasn't afraid to go to a prison in Puerto Rico and literally have a full blown conversation with a guy who is in there for being a serial killer and had zero, like, I did not care that he was that. I cared that he was a person that literally made some mistakes and it wasn't my place to judge him. And literally, I grew to gain like a lot of knowledge of how he was treated and how, you know, different incarceration systems are different than how they are here in the US. I'm a person that genuinely value people. I value love. I value growth. And I would not have known that if I didn't do the work that I've done thus far about accepting who I am and knowing, growing to know who I am and accepting who I'm becoming instead of fighting the person that I'm becoming. Because so often we allow what society tells us that we are, or our parents, or what we feel like we can be because of the group or the clique of people that we're trying to hang out with. And all of that I've realized doesn't matter. And growing to love myself, growing to value myself, and growing to live within my authentic self has been the greatest lesson that I've learned in my 20s. And it's been the biggest blessing that I have gained. And I cannot wait to see what my 30s hold. I know that it's going to be bigger than I can ever imagine, because my 20s have been very, very well experienced. And I just hope that people will stay tuned and just see, because it's going to be bigger than my biggest dream, I can promise you. But yeah, and then it says, what would you say to someone that possibly wants a life like you? That's a weird question for me. Because I don't feel like anybody should want to be like anybody. I personally feel that you should show up as your best self, because when you do that, you're only allowing your best tribe to find you. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want anyone to be like me. Even in the influencer realm of TikTok and my social platform, I do this to show people that a average Jane like myself can, if I can do it, you can do it. And that's the whole purpose of Coco's World, is I want to spread life and love to the world of so much chaos, so much hatred, and discredit. And I want people to learn, just like I've had to learn, that the more that you live in your authentic truth, the better life will be. So, thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Coco's World. This is the season finale for season 1, but I cannot wait to see what's next for season 2. And until then, I hope you all remember that you're loved. Thank you. Bye.